What is up, people? Matt here again. So I haven't done a top 5 or top 10 quite a while, so I thought I'd do one of those. As I'm sure you will be able to tell in the title of the video, this is a Attack on Titan or Shingeki No Kyojin top 5, top 10. It's actually the first one I've done for this anime or manga, and it's going to be my top 5 104th Trainee Cadets. So why have I only done the cadets? Well, down the line I might choose to do a top 10 overall characters in time, so I thought I'd do a top 5 cadets as a kind of separate thing. Now there are obviously there's a lot of characters I've missed out because I'm only doing top 5. So just remember that when I name mine, they won't be yours, although some of them might be. The chances are they're not all going to be on your list. So at number 5 is Mark Cobalt. Spoiler alert, by the way, for Attack on Titan or Shingeki no Kyojin. Mark Cobalt, he was ranked the 7th in the overall. He was ranked 7th out of the 10. And he's the only one that's deceased out of the top 10 cadets, which is a bit depressing because he's not even the weakest. He wasn't even the weakest. Marco had a strong, you could tell that he was a nice guy. Everyone pretty much liked him. All of them did. And he was a leader, but obviously he didn't get to use that skill very much. But he was good at inspiring people. He knew what to say to people, and he was just an overall good guy in the series. Obviously he was basically best friends with Jean, and Marco's death greatly affected Jean, as you can tell, which made him become who he is now, and it basically made him join the Scouts. So, and it's heavily implied that Marco was going to join the Scouts also, because in when Eren kind of sees Marco in like a kind of vision, Marco is wearing the Wings of Freedom cape. So Marco was a good guy, and that's why he just barely makes it into my top 5 cadets. So at number 4 is Leonhardt. A lot of people don't particularly like her. I can see where they're coming from, but I actually do like Annie because she's a very cold, reserved person. You never see her smile. She's kind of a bit of a loner. She was ranked 4th. She was just 1 up from Eren. So she was clearly she is a competent fighter, especially in hand to hand. That's kind of her specialty. But as her instructor Keith Shadis said, she's good, but she doesn't work well with others. And obviously you can kind of see why, because she ultimately ends up becoming the female, where she is the female Titan. And as of now, her fate's she's basically incapacitated because she's crystallized, so she can't do anything. But Annie was a pretty cool character. It's hard. She's clearly a villain, but is she a misunderstood villain? Does she actually have a good reason for doing what she did, or we don't know. So that's why it's hard to hate her at the moment, but at the same time she's pretty cool in herself. She's probably the coolest female in Attack on Titan, at least kind of on equal terms with Mikasa. So at number 3 we've got Kirsten. So Jean is one of those characters that you really didn't particularly like at the beginning. It was a bit of a D-bag, but for a lot of people he grew on them, and that's definitely the case with me. I definitely wasn't a particularly fan of him at the beginning when you first meet him, and then it gets better over time, and eventually he's kind of the rival to Eren. That's the whole thing. They clearly have a bit of a rivalry going on. They don't really hate each other. They just think, God, you know, I'm better than him. I'm better than him, sort of thing. But his heart's in the right place, and although he was a bit of a coward to start with, he definitely got a lot braver, and Marco's death, as I said, made him join the Scouts. And he even says, you know, I can't believe I ever considered not doing this. He said, I can't believe I thought, you know, I should have joined the military police. They are a bunch of cowards. So Jean was quite interesting. He's clearly had the most. He's been developed quite heavily throughout the series, and hopefully he'll continue to be developed. Although a lot of people are quite worried that he is one of the more vulnerable people, and he could be one of the next ones that dies, which is a bit worrying. But I have a feeling that they won't. As long as he's got a rivalry with Eren, I don't think they'll kill him off. If Eren and him become best friends, then he might die. But yeah, number 3 was John Kirsten. So at number 2, now this one, a lot of people will easily put as their favourite, but no, not for me. Sasha Blouse, famously known as Potato Girl. Yes, I've only put Sasha as number 2. Now, Sasha is the comic relief. She's the only comic relief in the whole series, really. She can kind of turn a really shitty situation and somewhat make it a bit funny. The reason that she obtained her whole Potato Girl, you know, name was because during the one of the first ever kind of cadet inspections, she was just standing there eating a potato. So there you go. She is literally, when it comes to food, she's like, she don't need no relationship in Attack on Titan. She's got food. I mean, now the reasoning behind the whole story behind her food is apparently she was in a district that had kind of food shortages, so she kind of starved a bit. So naturally, when she came to a place where there is a lot of food, naturally you're going to get on that. At the beginning of the series, she was comic relief. People thought, oh, she ain't going to last very long, and actually she wasn't supposed to survive very long. The creator of Attack on Titan actually said that she was supposed to be killed off in Volume 9, but one of the people that he worked with was so upset and actually cried that he decided to not do that, which is quite interesting. You don't normally hear about that, but you know, in the more recent parts of Attack on Titan, she's actually become a bit of a badass. She uses like bows and arrows and shit like that. She actually was kind of a hunter before the whole shit with the Titans happened, or maybe she became a hunter after that, but still she's pretty cool. So yeah, number 2, Sasha Blouse. So number 1. So without just naming number 1, I'll give you a couple of clues. It's not the main 3. It's not the main 3 good guys. So it's not Eren, it's not Mikasa, and it's not Armin. It is a male, not a female. And at present, he's considered a bad person. Number 1 is Rhiner Braun. He is my favourite cadet, and he is possibly my favourite character in Attack on Titan. He is the epitome of badass. In the top 10 cadets, he was actually ranked 2nd, just below Mikasa, and just above Bert Holt. Now, before I go on, I'd like to say that Jean Kirsten was actually ranked, or Sasha, sorry, was ranked 9th, Jean was ranked 6th. So Sasha was one of the weaker cadets. She wasn't the weakest. Jean kind of middle of the road, just behind Eren. which is a bit ironic. But anyway, on with Rhiner. So yes, Rhiner Braun. He is pretty much one of the biggest badasses in the series, or at least he was. I did that when we just saw he was a normal cadet. You were like, holy crap, this guy is like, he's never going to get killed. And if he had stayed as just a scout or a cadet, I could understand why. Because when Annie, the female Titan, which they didn't know, well, obviously he knew, but the rest of us didn't know. When he attacked Annie in Titan form, she kind of grabbed him in her actual hand, and he cut his way out of the hand. Most other people would have just been crushed, but Rhiner actually managed to slice like her fingers off and get out. Presumably that's because he's got Titan powers as well, so probably she wouldn't have been able to crush him, we don't know. But yes, Reiner's real identity is actually the Armored Titan. It's hard to believe I couldn't see that, because literally Rhiner does look identical to the Armored Titan, you just don't really think of it, I guess. All Titans pretty much looked the same in Titan form as they do in human form, pretty much, with the exception of Eren doesn't really look like his Titan form, or at least not the same as the rest of them. But yeah, Rhiner is just a badass. Obviously he is childhood friends with Berthold Hoover, who was ranked 3rd, just under him. Berthold's identity is obviously the Colossal Titan. So 2 Titans that are best mates, and they basically fucked shit up at the beginning of the series. Not surprising. I hope Rhiner doesn't turn out to be a bad guy forever. I hope he doesn't get killed, and I hope he does somehow redeem himself, or at least have a good excuse for doing what he did. Although he did pretty much basically end up getting a lot of people killed, so I'm not sure if he would ever be able to be forgiven for that. But those were my top 5 cadets, so quickly I'll go through them again. So at number 5, Mark Cobalt. At number 4, Annie Leonhardt. Number 3, Jean Kirsten. Number 2, Sasha Blouse. And number 1, Rhiner Braun. Anyway, as always, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye now.